Worked in Kolkata, Mumbai, New Delhi with the biggest media houses. The last 2 decades have seen him on the news frontline as national business editor at Hindustan Times, executive editor at TV Today, editor at Mail Today, editor in chief and COO at Financial Chronicle, and currently he is the CEO and editor in chief of independent newswire IANS, of course. So, coming to our next speaker, Sri Amish Tripathi. He published his first book in 2010 and has written 11 books so far. His books have sold 7 million copies and have been translated into 20 Indian and international languages. Forbes India has regularly ranked Amish among the top 100 most influential celebrities in India. Amish was also selected as an Eisenhower Fellow, a prestigious American program for outstanding leaders from around the world, in 2014. He won the 21st Century Icon Award in the UK in 2021 and the Golden Book Award for his novel Suhail Dev in 2022. He's also a host for TV documentaries, including Discovery TV's highly acclaimed and award-winning Legends of the Ramayana with Amish. So let's welcome him. And next, we have with us the Pro VC of RV University and a prolific writer, Sri Dwarika Unyal ji. So let's welcome all of them with a huge round of applause. And I promise you, this is going to be a very enlightening, insightful discussion. So pay all the attention in the world. So over to you, Dwarika ji. Also, for your information, currently we will have an Oriya session in the other hall, which is Suraj Mahal, and it's called, just a moment, Oriya Novel Existence and Possibilities, right? So in case you're interested, you could go up to Suraj Mahal and watch that session.
हेलो नमस्कार कलिंग साहित्य उत्सव को आपण समस्त को स्वागत वर्तमान सूरज महल जो आपण ये हॉल रो बाम पटे देखिछंती सेठी ओडिया उपन्यासर स्थिति और संभावना ए विषय रे आलोचना हबो जोथिरे हमर वक्ता अछंती डॉक्टर अजय स्वाई डॉक्टर गौरहरि दास सरोजिनी साहू मैडम बियत प्रज्ञा त्रिपाठी मैडम एवं यार मॉडरेटर अछंती स्वागतिका स्वाई ओडिया उपन्यासर स्थिति और संभावना ए विषय रे आलोचना पई आमर सूरज महल जो अच्छी ऊपर महलार जो ओडिया विभाग आलोचना आपण मैंने श्रोता मान अनुरोध से पहुंचा नमस्कार
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first session. Very, very interestingly titled Legends of Ancient Bharat and Beyond, Inspiring Lived Experience in the 21st Century. I've got a tremendous set of two writers, authors, speakers with me. But because we're in the land of Jagannath, and all of us do pray to the Jagannath, I have a few lines to start with, and pardon because it's in Hindi, so it's not in Odia. Devo ke dev ho, sat chit anand bhi, sarvatra ho, sarvavyapi bas tum ho. Dharti akash bhi, bhog hai, jog hai, निर्गुण निराकार लेकिन साकार भी ईश्वर हो भक्त हो पूरक हो पूर्ण भी तो जय जगन्नाथ will start this particular session. What we will do, and I will go there with my panelists, is I've set a couple of questions to both Mr. Tripathi as well as Mr. Bamzai on their respective experiences with the ancient Bharat and the kind of history they've been studying. And their work is very, very prominent, both in terms of bringing it to the day-to-day lives of Indians. And then we have Q&A followed by closing comments. So let's hope and wait that we will have a very, very cracking sessions with two esteemed people on my panel today. Thank you. Okay, so we start this with the first question to Mr. Tripathi. Now, you've been a management expert and you've done a lot of work in other areas. And last almost a decade or more, you have been studying, researching, and writing very actively to the ancient history, mythology, and the stories from the past. My question to you is, what aspects of ancient Bharat do you find most inspiring for individuals navigating the complexities of 21st century? Because you're one of them. How exactly you've discovered that element? I'm sure you've been brought up in that stories, but in last decade or more, you've been doing this work and bringing it forth to the masses to do that. What things really excite you? What are the inspiring things which drawn you into this?
Firstly, look, as far as the research for my books is concerned, it's not that I started on that research a decade back. You can see I've been doing research for this my entire life. I grew up with all these, with all
Stories
the
and
stories
legends
and our scriptures, our traditions, our philosophies. My grandfather was a Pandit in Vishwanathji at Varanasi. He was also a teacher at Banaras Hindu University. So I learned a lot essentially from my family. And why do I write these books? I think in today's day, it's in a modern world, a West influenced world. I've lived in the West for the last 4.5 years, just returned to India. Um, I think our philosophies have even more to offer. I think the Western world tends to swing on extremes from one extreme to the other.
Right.
There's no concept of balance, and you can see that in the way their societies are running. Like just a simple thing that to fight for women's rights, they assume that you have to hate men.
Right.
And then when you go forward to fight for transgender rights, they assume you have to hate women. It just keeps swinging from one extreme to the other.
Right.
They don't get the concept of balance. It's just one part of how Indian traditions, dharmic traditions, actually lead to a better life, a better society. I genuinely believe that, and therefore I try and communicate those philosophies through my books in the garb of interesting stories.
Right. Thank you. I think, yeah, if you really look at it, one of the most ancient traditions have been the Bharatvarsha's traditions, and the West is just discovering it now. But at the same time, Mr. Bamzai, my question to you would be that you've chronicled not necessarily the most ancient history of India, but you've looked at the contemporary modern India for the last 70 years or so. What is it in your own research, your own work, that you find that is this a real civilization awakening, if you really say, in terms of that for last 70, 80 years, we have not kind of accepted the fact that this is how India is with all its fault lines. And now if you really see it, is that people are trying to go back to understand what we were and make peace with it as well, in all in its entirety in that particular sense, including your work in Kashmir and others would definitely say that, okay, let's understand and accept that it happened and whatever has happened, and let's go ahead with that.
Civilization is always much forward.
Yeah.
The ones that have been unable to march forward have declined and been destroyed. Now, the four great civilizations, as we've always known, Mesopotamia, China, Indus Valley, and obviously the Egyptian civilization. But there are other civilizations which were destroyed. The Mayans, for instance.
Yeah.
Climate change destroyed the Roman Empire. Bureaucracies, conspiracies, partisan intrigues, one by one, the Roman Empire was destroyed. I think if you look at our own civilization, it goes back so many years. Just go back 2,000 years. A man came on horseback all the way from Macedonia, looking to conquer India. His name was Alexander. Between Macedonia and India, he used a horse to conquer. He conquered the Persian Empire, he conquered Egypt without even fighting, he became a pharaoh
in Egypt, there was no armada, there was no flotilla, there was no seafaring nations later, as we know, the Dutch, the Spanish, the Germans, the Brits, they conquered various parts of the world. South America is a classic example. Brazil was conquered by the Portuguese and is probably the only Portuguese-speaking nation all across South America, which is replete with Spanish-speaking people.
Exactly.
So history teaches us so many things. But my own work, I think, is predicated entirely on what I believe is gross injustice to the people who fought for our freedom. The independence movement, sadly, has not been well documented in India. And I think it's a travesty that there are no freedom archives. I've seen the National Archives, I've seen the Nehru Memorial, I have gone through various books, papers, etc. during the course of my own.
Why do you think that happened? Was it deliberate in terms of the people who did that, or?
I think it's a strange anomaly of history that India, which fought for its freedom, and if you look at Mahatma Gandhi used South Africa as a test laboratory, brought the same tenets of what he had done in South Africa, where he lived for almost 60, 70 years, and brought those same tenets and principles to fight a war, an attritional war against the British back home. But I don't see, I've traversed the entire spectrum. I don't see well documented freedom archives, independence archives. I don't think the role of India's freedom fighters has been adequately chronicled. I give you the
Across the spectrum also, right? In terms of,
I give you the example of B.P. Menon.
right.
Most people do not know who B.P. Menon was, but B.P. Menon was the Secretary of State under Sardar Patel. And actually, Sardar Patel, sorry to say, gets needless credit for the work that B.P. Menon did. It is, okay, at Sardar's direction, but it is B.P. Menon who traversed the length and breadth of this country and collared these princes and royals and brought them together. And the true integration of these princely states, disparate, diverse, some of them crackpots, as I've shown in the book
Princess Khan, yeah.
And all these guys were brought to book by B.P. Menon. Kutch had.
He was the iron frame Sardar always mentioned, right? Isn't it?
He is the Iron Man.
He is the.
He is the Iron Man of India.
Yeah.
Yes, history will also tell you that some of these errant princes actually went to Sardar, and I've documented this in great detail. They actually went to Sardar and told Sardar that Sardar Sahab, पंडित जी से बात नहीं हो पाती, पंडित जी बड़ी जल्दी गुस्सा हो जाते हैं, पंडित जी हमारी बात नहीं सुनते हैं, आप पेशेंट हैं, आप हमारी बात सुनते हैं. This is documented in history, not just by me, but by historians like Mosley, etc. That Sardar was more open. Pandit ji had this anti-monarchical, probably because of his socialist leanings, the fact that he went to England and spent a lot of time in England, the fact that Annie Besant and George Bernard Shaw had a role to play in his upbringing and his mental, how should I put it, growth. But Sardar was more open to listening to these princes, and Sardar actually gave direction. I'll tell you a small story, which I think will interest everybody, on how India actually got its independence. And we criticize Lady Mountbatten, we criticize Edwina, we criticize the so-called relationship between Panditji and Edwina. Mountbatten was completely fatigued after the Dicky Bird plan, which he actually went to England with it, saying that this is the Dicky Bird plan which which had become the template for India's independence. And Panditji shot it down, saying that this is a Mad Hatter's dream. This cannot happen. Mountbatten was for he went off to Shimla in the heat of, I think it was late June 1947. And Edwina told VP Menon, Panditji also was fatigued, and Panditji also, as luck would have it, went to Shimla. It is Edwina, and this Frank Morris details in his biography of Nehru, and I too have details of this. Edwina calls VP Menon and says, VP, this is your best chance. You have both of them locked up in different parts of Shimla. Go to them, scrap this nonsensical Dicky Bird plan. Look at what both of them have to say.
Bring them together.
And then come up with
Bring them together.
together, and more importantly, put together a plan which can actually be effectively rolled out. VP Menon actually goes to Shimla. And remember, this is a Shimla of 1947. There are no flags, and
Yeah, of course.
it's a different world altogether. VP Menon first meets Dickie Mountbatten, talks to him, makes him understand the exigencies of independence, etc. Dickie Mountbatten, or Lord Louis Mountbatten, comes down 2 or 3 notches and accepts what VP Menon is telling him. VP then goes to Panditji in another part of Shimla and explains that this is how he has got Mountbatten to come down on several of the aspects that were wrinkles.
Right.
Panditji agrees. Panditji says, okay, this is how we're going to do it. VP Menon exits that room, calls up Sardar Patel, who is convalescing somewhere, not in Delhi, outside Delhi. On the phone call, VP Menon tells Sardar that Panditji has scrapped Mountbatten's plan. This is the
New plan.
This is how we go about it.
Right.
Guess what? Sardar Shah signs off on a telephone.
Fantastic. Fantastic. That's why history is so important. I think, yeah, you're right.
I have no understanding of history. I studied history in school just as all of us.
Right.
I studied economics in Calcutta University.
Yeah, but you're practicing, right? You're going back to the,
And I have this strange fascination for modern Indian history.
right,
Because I believe that it's not chronicled and documented.
right,
And that's what keeps me going back to it and doing a deep dive.
Right.
And looking at various aspects
right.
of Indian.
But I think, Amish, you have a very difficult task when he is going only 70, 80, 100 years in history. You're going thousands and thousands and a millennia in the history and trying to dig out the modern theme, pick out the issues and the legends, and then try to make it a lot more contemporary. So in your view, what are the themes and messages you typically want to convey through your books? And how do you feel they would typically now started to impact the society? Like a lot of youngsters now read a lot of your books. You're one of the best-selling authors in the country. You are the one. How do you now see this in terms of accepting what Sandeep is saying about try and understand a modern history versus the ancient history, not the myth, the ancient history, what you would like to call of India, and try and understand, saying that is it even relevant after thousands of years? How do you go about that process?
There are two things to this. First, the assumption that we've been told by the British Raj and then regrettably the elite that ruled India post
that, yeah.
independence as well, that there was a shortage of records and that we were an oral culture and therefore we don't know much about what happened. That is absolute nonsense.
Libraries were burnt
Yeah.
and so
No,
on and so forth. That was the
despite
truth.
the libraries being burnt,
we still
which
had
in my mind was among the biggest disasters for
Yep.
humanity.
Yeah, yeah.
The Nalanda University, when it was attacked by Bakhtiyar Khilji, the Nalanda library burnt for a month. It had that many manuscripts.
And ironically, the
Takshashila,
station is still called the
Bakhtiyarpur.
Bakhtiyarpur.
Yeah. Vikramshila, Takshashila, Mahodaypuram. Attacks were made on centers of learning in Odisha as well, Tanjore. Despite all this, there are around 3.5 million handwritten Sanskrit manuscripts that survive till today, ancient manuscripts, according to the National Mission of Manuscripts. That's more than the rest of the ancient world combined. Just to give you a perspective, Greece, which is the mother culture of Europe, the number of ancient Greek handwritten manuscripts that survive till today is between 20 to 25, maybe 30,000. That's it. India, 3.5 million.
Wow.
Okay. Our ancestors did not just write, they wrote a hell of a lot. So the
But
fault
where is
was
all
not...
where is all this in the popular accessibility? You know, very
No,
few people would
many
think
of
about
them-
it, would
many
know
of
about
them,
it.
Many of them are in temples in South India.
Right.
Many of them are in private collections. Rajput royal households had many
have, yeah.
manuscripts. In 1947, when India became independent, sadly, our bureaucracy decided that apparently the Rajput royalty could not be trusted. So they took many of the manuscripts, which are now housed in Bikaner, and where rats are eating them now.
Oh God.
Thankfully, many of the royal households refused to hand it over to the Indian state, like Udaipur, like Jaipur. So those manuscripts
the
still
Maharana
survive.
Mewar Foundation
but
does-
Bikaner,
yeah.
But Bikaner still has many of these manuscripts. So the fault wasn't of our ancestors. There are more than enough records. The fault is ours that we refuse to look.
And why we
and
have
it's
not been looking?
our own biases, I guess. I mean, it's the same thing of the record of our freedom struggle. It's not that the records weren't there. It's just that I guess the people who took over post 47 were perhaps not the rebels, but the collaborators. The British
Or perhaps
system,
maybe history was the last thing in their head because they wanted to build
the
a modern
British
new
system
nation.
continued. Our history is so Delhi obsessed.
Yeah. But is it
everything-
is it in reality, or is it only in the CBSE books that we are Delhi obsessed?
It's our history books. Reality, actually, Delhi was an important part. I don't deny it,
Yeah.
but it's not the only important part of India.
No, but for
How much
example,
of
look at Odisha.
Odisha history-
For
how much
example,
of
people
Odisha
here
history is
would
taught
have
in
their
our-
own oral histories and other histories. And
No, there are written texts
written
also
histories
in,
also.
of Odisha.
And they would be more passionate
texts
about
of
them rather than...
Khadavela, texts of so many. But those are not presented in our history books.
True.
So the fault is frankly of the modern Indians, not of our ancestors. History was not just recorded on manuscripts; it was also recorded on temple walls, on copper things. It's the fault is actually of modern Indians. I'll give you a simple example, something as basic as the number of seasons in our education system. What's taught to us is that India had 4 seasons: summer, autumn, winter, spring. And I remember the second standard, I had asked, ma'am, monsoon kahan gaya?
Exactly.
India actually has 6 seasons.
Yeah.
Even our seasons are linked to Europe. Europe has 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Our education system was never
all our
decolonized.
festivals are season linked. You know, end
Our
of the day.
education system was never decolonized. There are enough and more records. It's our fault that we don't look at it.
Right.
What has changed in the last few years, as especially post 1991, as India has grown economically stronger and more confident, that we are looking now at our own records once again, and we are.
So what is changing? What
refreshing
is
our
changing?
understanding.
If in your view, you meet a lot of youngsters as well, that what is changing in them today? Are they open to look at ancient history? Are they open to look at ancient myths? Are they excited? You know, in a generation which is brought over by the staple of Avengers and Norse gods and others, are they coming back and relating to their own set of legends and gods? Is it happening among the modern day Gen Zs and the millennials and so on and so forth? What's your view? You meet them more often?
They like Western stuff. They like Indian stuff too. And there's nothing wrong with
I'm saying
with learning.
they're open to look at, and now it's
with
coming
learning
back to
good
them.
stuff from the West. Shivali India Foundation has a lovely line below this: "Ano bhadraha kritvo yantu vishwata." What it means is, let noble thoughts come to me from all directions of the world. Nothing wrong with good thoughts coming from the West as well, but our roots should be Indian, and our younger generation is that way, and it reflects in their habits. You would have seen at the Ram Janmabhoomi Ji or many temples, you'll find youngsters
Right.
coming and praying.
Right.
You find wonderful renditions of ancient bhajans with
Right.
guitars, and I say nothing wrong with that. It's a modern way of looking at our ancient culture.
Coming to the recent
not so recent, almost 100 years or 70, 80 years. Sandeep, you've done a trilogy of this kind, or you're writing one on Kashmir, and the next book is also looking at a photo essay of that. What has led you to do that? Of course, your own family connection and others, but what was the inherent, अंदर से जिद जो बोलते हैं, that I would want to do this? Not many would go back and dig their own roots and figure out, can I bring it in unbiased, non-colored lens, as you and I were talking in the bylines? What was that in you that you really wanted to go back? And something which is, since independence, has always been very controversial, right? In popular media and what has happened, the history between Pakistan and us, and so on and so forth, and in the Kashmir itself, the whole independent Kashmir moment. So tell us about your own process. Tell us about what has led you to do that as a youngster. I'm sure you had your own lived experiences of that time, but as a modern day author and a journalist, what is so compelling that you wanted to go back and rediscover Kashmir?
No, it's a good question because there is a sense of anger.
Anger, is it? Okay.
And I guess writing has become a manifestation, perhaps, of that anger.
Right.
This may be a subliminal thought process, but the fact that I have written means that it's fructified. Now, we proclaim ourselves as a Hindu Rashtra, right?
I don't think we're proclaiming, I think.
More or less, we proclaimed ourselves as a Hindu Rashtra.
Right.
More so over these last 10 years. And look at the irony that Hindus from Kashmir, over a period of 33 years, 34 years now, January 18th has just gone by, January 18, 19. Over a period of 34 years, a Hindu community is living as nomads in a Hindu majority India. And governments have come and gone, and nobody has given a damn. There are people, believe me, who still live in camps outside Jammu. There's two camps. There's a camp called Jagati Camp, where Kashmiri Pandits still live more or less in penury. The fact that they're industrious, the fact that they're intellectually inclined, the fact that they're hardworking, they've improved their lot.
But the blame game has happened all these 30 years.
But nothing has changed. Governments have come and gone, nothing has changed. Nobody gives a damn. The only person, and I say this with great pride, the only person who has ever apologized was in a one-on-one with me, the Vice President, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, who actually told me, "आप कश्मीरी पंडित हैं, मैं अपनी तरफ से, I'm apologizing to you." I said, "किस बात पर?" He said, "मैं जब सरकार में था, मैंने अटल जी, जोशी जी और अडवाणी जी को बोला कि हमें कुछ करना चाहिए। जब हमारी सरकार फिर से बनी, मैंने मोदी जी को बोला हमें कुछ करना चाहिए। मैं अपनी तरफ से आपको apologize करता हूं। The only two people who ever did anything was one was Barasat Thakre, who gave
Reservations in the, admissions, reservations.
all across Maharashtra.
Right.
And Pramod Mahajan did the same in Delhi University. Barring that, nobody has done it. And I think this return to my roots, I was born in Kashmir. I'm not a migrant. I must confess, and I must put that on record. My family moved to Delhi in 1945. And I've lived in Delhi, in Calcutta, in Bombay, and then come back to Delhi. And I've spent many, many years outside Delhi. I lived in Calcutta for 7 years. I lived in Bombay and now Mumbai for 16 years. I grew up in Delhi. I came back to Delhi. I find that we are more concerned about Palestinians,
Yeah.
more concerned about Ukrainians.
Yeah.
We are less concerned about Kashmiri Pandits. So I think
Amish, where do you see it? What's your view on this? Yeah,
this is a shocking denouement
right.
of the system that governs this country.
Right. And despite of all that media and all the films which is being made, they've also been termed as propaganda films.
No, it doesn't. You may call the last one propaganda.
No, I'm not saying it. The media has termed it as one. We don't know.
We have called that film propaganda, and perhaps it was propaganda. But mind you, every single incident in that
It's true.
is true.
It's true. That's what I'm
It may
saying.
have been amplified or magnified or shown, but Nadibag happened. Every single thing happened in that.
So is there a reluctance in us as Indians to accept the good, bad, and ugly of our past?
No, I think we, for some strange reason, are oblivious to.
We just don't care.
Yeah, we just don't care. I mean,
If it's not happening in my gully, I don't care.
I've given you the example of our freedom movement.
Right.
No one
Yeah.
cares. There are no archives. There is no documentation of the freedom movement in this country. And I think the first thing any government of the center should do is create a freedom archives where the work of from
Everybody.
from Bhagat Singh to Rajguru,
Yeah.
everybody should be.
No, you're right. Even if there are archives, people are not accessing them. And
No, I don't find, like I told you, I've seen the National Archives, I've seen Nehru Memorial, I've seen various other things. I think what Amish said, the private collections,
Right.
the private archives,
yeah, they exist.
of various people, including my own family,
Right.
are spectacular. I tell you, Swamiji came to my house on the banks of the Jhelum in 1897.
Wow. And he's talking about Swami Vivekananda, right? So,
So
yeah.
Jamshedji Tata came to my house in 1902. Does anybody know? Does anybody care? Gurudev came to my house. Imagine Rabindranath Tagore came from Shantiniketan to my house in Jhelum, and this, the proof of concept is he and his brother Rabindranath Tagore painted, and that painting is there in Shantiniketan of geese flying or attempting to fly from the baradari of my house into the jail.
Jhelum.
So this, if you ask why, the
Right.
answer is obsession. It is an obsession to document and to chronicle
Right.
everything that people don't know
Right.
anything about and
Right.
don't care about.
Right. I mean, I see a similar obsession in your work now in terms of you're really going both not just as a writer, but somebody who's been a diplomat, who's been, trying to bring India's culture, India's history, India's literature to the Western world and protecting it. Your role is even in London was very different than what was envisaged and done earlier, right? So first question would be in terms of, do you see that we are really lacking as a country in terms of chronicling and documenting our own lived histories? Yet at the same time, are we now finally non-apologetic about tell the world that who we are?
Historically, we were not weak. Historically, actually, often our documentation used to be very good. In the north, there used to be communities of Upadhyayas
Yeah.
who kept records. In the state that I live in now, Maharashtra, there's a nomadic community. I'm forgetting their names. They keep records. They travel village to village. So you can actually get genealogies of people going back 10, 15
Yeah, even those are
generations.
very much available even in Pushkar, for example. They're very much
In
available in Tapkund, in
Many of the spiritual places.
yeah, spiritual
many
places. Yeah.
Historical records were kept. We didn't just write religious texts. The history of Ashok was found in Ashok Avadhana. We did keep records. Systems became weaker with the invasions.
Right.
First with the Turkic invasions because they destroyed many of our universities, but the real blow was with the British invasions,
Right.
as many of those who used to keep records were seduced over to the other side.
But Britishers were very
opportunity-
good in making their own land records, and gazetteers were a really treasure trove of socio-economic, cultural aspects of a particular district of that
What do you
time.
think British records were like before the 16th, 17th century?
I have no idea. You tell me.
They weren't fantastic.
Okay.
Okay. There's a theory which I heard in the UK that the British learned many of their techniques from their interactions with the rest of the world,
World.
including with India.
India.
Right?
And they
I'm
became
not saying they
master
learned everything
documentation.
from us, no.
Right.
But from various other
Right.
cultures.
Right.
And look, they were smart to learn from others.
Right.
We weren't smart enough to learn from other cultures. In fact, we forgot what our traditions were also. So it's easy to blame invaders.
Right.
And I'm not saying we need to whitewash what the invaders did. We need to speak of it honestly. But there's a time when we've been free for 75, 80 years
Yeah.
now. Nearly we'll be hitting 80 years
80
very
years,
soon. In
yeah,
3 years.
exactly.
There's a time when you have to stop complaining and we have to do it ourselves. It's
Yeah.
up to us now.
Yeah. Yeah. Enough of victim, playing the victim, right? In that particular
Not anymore.
sense. Right. Thank you. I have one interesting question for you, Sandeep, in the sense that you've been, and this is not necessarily only with this topic, but you being a journalist as well as a media person and an author now, what do you think is the media's role in cultural preservation? And I would request the audiences to kind of limit their volumes of chatter, personal chatter, please. It's very, very disconcerting for the audio, for the speakers to speak here if the constant chatter keeps happening from the back as well. Yeah, my request. Thank you. Yeah, please.
I reckon the journalist shelf life is very limited. Of course, now we have digitization. But for instance, I've been in this game for 40 odd years.
Right.
Even as recently as my tenure at Hindustan Times, there is no digital record.
Is it?
Yeah, because the Google of this world
Right.
came much later.
Right.
So it's only beyond, say, 2007, 8, that we actually have digital records of what we have written.
Right.
And as my wife says, we can't keep all your clippings because silverfish set in, so you have to throw them out. And they've all been chucked out of the house.
Oh, God.
Okay? So there are no digital records. And with the amount of money written over time, you can't
True.
keep clippings.
True.
So it's only for the last 12, 15 years that we have digital records of what we've written, and one can access them through the internet. I think another reason that has driven me to do long form writing in the
True. Books and
books
right.
is so that there is a permanence attached to it, there is shelf life attached to it. I remember my daughter when she was growing up in school, she came home one day and said that your book is in the library, and a couple of girls had asked for the book,
Right.
wanted to read it. I thought that was a great moment. But we need to understand, you asked Amish to civilization. Einstein is on record as saying that if it were for Indians, we would have known how to count.
True.
And Aryabhatta discovered zero years and years ago.
Yeah.
Einstein says that the basis of all scientific discoveries is the fact that Indians taught us how to count.
And much more. I think if you look at even the mathematical
there are so many
work done by the Kerala School of Mathematics and others.
Sun Tzu is credited with the art of war.
War.
And from a corporate baron to military strategist, everybody quotes Sun Tzu.
It's a best-selling book also.
So, what about poor Kautilya and his Arthashastra?
Right.
He has actually documented various forms of warfare
Yeah.
in the Arthashastra. It It is not just a socio-economic
True.
dissertation.
Even the political aspect of it, how to govern, even the governance and
It teaches you about statecraft. It
Yeah.
teaches you about different forms of, kutniti.
right.
Kut Yoda is what he teaches you. Concealed warfare, open warfare. Manusmriti, if you go back in time, Manusmriti teaches you about statecraft. Now we're talking about years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
Even as recently as 2000 years ago, when Alexander fought Porus, it is the Nandas who were in power. And look at the striking aspect. There were two great emperors, more or less at the same time in different parts of the
World. Yeah.
who nearly converged on the banks of the Jhelum.
Jhelum, yeah.
So the Nanda Empire was in decline,
Yeah.
and Chandragupta Maurya's emergence was
Yeah.
taking place. Ashoka was the grandson of
Chandragupta
Chandragupta
Maurya.
Maurya, and Ashoka became one of the great emperors of this country. And Alexander, who came on horseback, I mean, they nearly collided. Chandragupta Maurya, he did fight. Chandragupta Maurya never fought Alexander. Porus did. But Alexander was in a way defeated on the gates of the Hydaspes, which is Jhelum, because his army said, we cannot fight anymore. Because they fought relentlessly
Right.
for 12 years.
But his deputy, his Senapati, I think, Seleucus Nicator and others stayed back, and they had a. That's what the history says.
That's what history says. But the reality is that imagine a few years here and there, and Chandragupta Maurya would have had to fight Alexander in the plains of India. History,
That would have been a hell lot of a fight, I'm sure.
because we know about the three battles of Panipat
Right.
and how
It changed the course of history.
how they
Yeah.
changed the
Course of history.
But
Exactly.
Panipat happened many
Yeah, centuries. Yeah,
We're
centuries.
talking 326 BC,
BC.
with Alexander. We're talking 330 BC with Ashoka. We're talking 330 BC or more or less the same time as that for Chandragupta Maurya. So
Right.
I think due credit is not given to our own civilization, which is 3, 4, 5,000 years old.
Right.
And I think people like Shushrat, who created the Indian form of medicine, Aryabhat, who created zero, these are acknowledged abroad. They're acknowledged by Einstein. I mean, everybody's seen Oppenheimer, and everybody's talking about the atomic bomb and
Yeah.
his relationship with Einstein. But Einstein gives due credit to India.
No, and even Oppenheimer was a big into Indian scriptures.
Even he too. So I think the youth, I mean, we, at least me, I grew up studying history in school, but for me, the greatest thing was to get hold of the latest Amar Chitra Katha.
Uncle Pai.
I was completely besotted by the idea of Amar Chitra Katha.
But that has changed now, right? I think this whole
But I hope so.
tenure. No, I think Amar Chitra Katha, with the way they're coming up with new stories and others.
People in this country should devote some more time to their own history.
Right.
And I think the fact that we were ruled for almost 1,000 years from the slave dynasty to the Brits, I think, as Amish rightly pointed out, that has somewhat colored the prism from which we look at our own history.
But that's changing, I think. And coming to on this, Amish, where do you see the role of other media, the new media, the films, the series, in bringing a lot of these real stories, a lot of legends and myths to our screens now? And do you think that are we doing a good job in adaptation in the documentary? You've done a couple of docu-series yourself, and you traced back the path of the Ramayana and others. Where do you see the role of not the written word, but more adaptive word coming in? And would it help, a modern day Indian to lack of bad word, maybe consume this kind of thing and maybe get inspired? Where do you see that
Yeah,
happening?
you have to communicate through stories. As
Right.
Muriel Rickenson said, the universe is not made up of atoms, it's made up of stories. And so even in my books, for example, the non-fiction books that I
Yeah,
write
yeah.
are more for the aficionados. I mean, they'll sell only 50,000, 100,000 copies. It's a fiction books which sell in the millions. And it's only through stories that you can communicate many deeper thoughts. So that's something that I think all communicators need to learn. Good leaders are also good storytellers.
Right.
And I try and do that through not just my books, through my documentaries. I just released a documentary on the Ram Janmabhoomi ji as well,
Right.
on Geo, and we're telling the story of the temple
Temple.
from the beginning till now.
How
the
far
last
back do
20
you go in this?
from the birth of Lord Ram
Oh, okay.
till now, and it's a 75-minute documentary, and through a short story you get it's an audio-visual story,
Right.
well produced, and you get.
Do you think that's also a very powerful medium
we need
now?
it? Yeah, we need it, and we need to communicate to our kids in a medium that that they would understand.
True.
The medium itself is not as important as the
Message.
messages that you convey.
Message is the medium. Right. Okay. Last questions to both of you. What are your future projects? So Sandeep, tell us about yours, and then I'll ask Amish about it.
I think when you do deep dive into a project that you're researching, a project that you're writing about, it's a fascinating journey. It's like a journey to the end of the earth because every day you discover something new.
Right.
But that is only part of it. The corroboration of
Each fact.
is the single most difficult. And this is where I found the challenge with National Archives or with Nehru Memorial.
Right. Right.
Corroboration
Becomes difficult. Yeah.
extremely difficult because there are not very many documents available for corroboration. I have used my personal archives left to me by my grandfather, which have helped me. But equally, I want to corroborate.
Yeah, because those are one set of your reference points. You know, you need
Those
to.
are original documents exchanged
Yeah.
letters between Sri Sardar Sahab and Pandit Ji,
Right.
Sheikh Abdullah and Hari Singh. I mean, these are
True.
original documents that I have. And sometimes
But you also need to triangulate that data, right? Yeah.
sometimes I wonder maybe I should just go to Sotheby's and stop writing. But it doesn't interest me whatsoever. I think
Right.
writing is much better experience.
Yeah.
So my next project is has already been commissioned. It's a pictorial history. And from
So how far do you go back in time?
so we go back straight to Rajkaran.
Oh, is it from that time you were gonna?
Because again, the history of Kashmir has been documented
True.
by my own granduncle,
Right.
Srinath Kaul Baba.
Right. Right.
His history of Kashmir is the
Yes.
same as well.
Yes.
But I think the idea of
Real one.
and they have got hold of some amazing pictures.
Okay.
And I will write the text, not necessarily supporting those pictures,
Got it. Got it.
but look at the history of Kashmir.
Got it.
Hindu kings,
Those ancient temples and
Hindu king, right? Avantipura still
yes.
stands. The
Yeah.
king of Avantipura
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
stands.
Yeah.
Avantivarman was a king.
Yep.
Muslim kings, Mughals, Sikhs,
Yeah.
Maharaja
Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Yeah.
Afghans.
Yeah.
Kashmir was ruled by
Afghans for a long time. Yeah.
Dogra.
Dogras.
So it's from Kashyap Rishi to 2024.
Wow.
It's a humongous timeline that you need to encapsulate
Right.
in writing a pictorial essay of this. I am excited with this project and I think it'll take me a couple of years. I hope to complete this.
No, it's an amazing work, and I'm sure you're as passionate and you would remain.
Imagine Maharaja Ranjit Singh gave away Kashmir
Right.
for 75 lakh rupees.
Right. Oh my God.
75 lakh rupees was a lot of money nowadays,
But still.
but
Still.
he gave away the empire.
Right.
And imagine that Emperor Jahangir would go all the way from the throne of Delhi to the Mughal gardens of Kashmir. You know the Mughal road? It's the Mughal road is what Jahangir used to use
Go all the way to up there.
to go all the way. So you know, just think, Gurudev coming from Calcutta to
Right.
Srinagar, Jahangir going on elephants or horseback all the way to Kashmir and spending his summer.
For no reason, it is called the paradise on earth, isn't it?
So this state, this valley,
Yeah,
history,
yeah. The mysticism of it, the mysticism of it. Not just the Hindu part, the Buddhist part, and others as well.
Emperor Ashoka,
Yeah,
he sent his emissaries all the way to Ladakh.
yeah.
He sent his emissaries to Thailand, to Vietnam, to Sri Lanka, China. If Buddhism is grown, look at our civilization.
Use the mic.
We are not just a Hindu country. Sikhism was born in India. Jains were born in India. Buddhism was born in India. And Buddhism traveled all over the world.
Yeah.
thanks to Emperor Ashoka.
Yeah.
And it's probably the smallest
In India, actually.
India, while
Right.
it's expanded.
Lovely. So we look forward to your new book, and ladies and gentlemen, please pick up his book is available there, the Gilded Cage on Kashmir. Amish, what's your new project? It's more fiction, or you're working parallel on fiction, non-fiction now, and what is it that happening?
I have 2 fiction books coming out. One on Emperor Rajen Chola, South
Oh,
Indian
okay.
Emperor. It'll
Oh,
come out
lovely.
by the end of the year.
Lovely.
And I have to start working on the 5th book of the Ramchandra series,
Okay.
which will connect it to the Shiva trilogy. It's called Rise of Meluha.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, you'll go back to and link both of them. Okay, you complete the.
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
It's a long 15
So Shiva
section book.
and,
Yeah,
and Rama
all
meet
gets connected.
in the next one.
I have some more documentaries. I myself produce and host them
Lovely.
now, and I'm working on a movie project as well. So the days are
Lovely.
packed.
Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got an amazing conversation with Sandeep Bamzai and Amish. Before we end, and you're talking, and because I'm the host and host and the poet, I'm going to end with few lines of a poem called Tanga Hua Samay. The time hangs heavy. And it's linked with our history. It's linked with about how we look back our ancient legends and relive with our own experiences. It says, भारी सिलबट्टे का तला जैसे गहरी कोयले की खदान की वो अंधेरी सुरंग, जंगलों में फंसी पुरातन हवा जिसके पीपल की जड़ों में जमे हुए पानी सी, सहस्र वर्षों की रिक्ति, यहाँ कुछ है जो अपूर्ण है, टंगे हुए समय की तरह. Few more lines. मंदिरों के इन गर्भगृहों में सदियों पुराने इतिहासों की क्षणभंगुरता, उन अनश्वर पत्थरों के नीले घावों में दंभ द्वेष लालसाएं, हारे हुए समरों के शेष हैं. रक्त पिपासाओं की देह में कुछ है जो अपूर्ण है, टंगे हुए समय की तरह. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Amish and Sandeep. Great talking to both of you, and thank you.
This was so powerful, Dr. Dwarika.
Just go to our own place because it's not checked. No, it's good.
So I request Prachi Nayak ji from the KLF team to please felicitate Dr. Dwarika. Yeah. This was such an invigorating exchange and a huge learning experience from us. So many things resonated with me. The story of Kashmiri Pandits and so on. Digital India Bhashini, a project of IIIT Bhubaneswar, seeks to enable easy access to the internet and digital services in Indian languages, including voice-based access, and help the creation of content. An AI-led language translation platform, it will enable massive citizen engagement to build multilingual data sets through a crowdsourcing initiative called Bhasha Dan. Let us watch a short AV about this innovative project while we set up from the next session. So may I request the team to please play the AV pertaining to the IIIT project.
Bhashini, 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 Bhashini. बोलो इंडिया, सुनो इंडिया, लिखो इंडिया, लिखो इंडिया. बोलो इंडिया, सुनो इंडिया, लिखो इंडिया, लिखो इंडिया.
पूरब बोले पश्चिम समझे उत्तर तान मिलाए दक्षिण के स्वर यूं घुल जाए देश झूम के गाए
मन से मन की बात चले नए ज्ञान का द्वार खुले बस एक यही अभिलाषा है भारत की हर भाषा अपनी भाषा है अपनी भाषा है अपनी भाषा है
भाषिणी नए दौर की स्वर्णिम आशा है स्वर्णिम आशा है स्वर्णिम आशा है
भारत की हर भाषा अपनी भाषा है नई एकता का सपना संजोए भाषिनी भारत को एक डोर में पिरोए भाषिनी नई एकता का सपना संजोए भाषिनी भारत को एक डोर में पिरोए भाषिनी बोलो इंडिया सुनो इंडिया लिखो इंडिया लिखो इंडिया बोलो इंडिया सुनो इंडिया लिखो इंडिया लिखो इंडिया.
Wonderful. What a catchy number. भारत की हर भाषा हमारी अपनी भाषा है. Now for the second panel, we will have the Tigress of Hindi Literature, formally awarded, Nasira Sharma ji, who will be deconstructing her writing journey before us in a conversation with Avinash Mishra ji. So may I request Avinash Mishra ji to please come up on the stage. Do we have Avinash Mishra ji here? KLF team, Avinash Mishra ji. He's around the hall, please. Now I request Nasira Sharma ji to please also come up on the stage. So our applause should thunder like a tiger's roar, because we have with us the Tigress of Hindi literature, right? I am sure this does not satisfy the Tigress. So I'll read a few lines about our speakers today. Nasira is a renowned Indian writer who writes in Hindi. She has published 10 Hindi language novels. Some books are Parijat, Meri Priya Kahaniyan, Ajnabi Jajira, Patthar Gali, and Aurat Ke Liye Aurat. She won a Sahitya Akademi Award for her novel Parijat and Vyas Samman for her novel Kagaz Ki Naav in 2019. And about Avinash Mishra. He's a poet, fiction writer, critic, editor, and journalist. His work includes collections of poetry like his Agyatwas ki Kavitaएं, novels like Naye Shekhar ki Jeevni, etc. His latest novel is Varshavas. So let's encourage them with another applause before they begin with this discussion. Over to you, Avinash.
हेलो, नमस्कार। नासरा जी के बारे में भी परिचय दिया ही गया, और नासरा जी किसी परिचय की इस तरह से मोहताज नहीं है, और काफ़ी जाना पहचाना नाम है हिंदी साहित्य में और भारतीय साहित्य में भी। नासरा जी का लेखन बहुत विपुल है और साहित्य की विभिन्न विधाओं में नासरा जी ने काम किया है। एक किताब है, उसका नाम है जिंदा मुहावरे, मैम की। उससे अगर मैं शब्द लेकर कहूँ तो नासरा जी का जो पूरा कथा साहित्य है और कथा साहित्य से इतर भी अनुवाद इत्यादि का काम जो है उन्होंने एक अपने पाठकों के लिए एक ऐसा सेतु तैयार किया है। ये उनके ही शब्द हैं, जिंदा मुहावरे की भूमिका में कहा है उन्होंने कि उस सेतु पर लाकर उन्होंने अपने पाठकों को खड़ा किया है और ऐसी कोशिश की है जहां एक इंसान को दूसरे इंसान तक ले जाया जाता है, और वहाँ पर एक इंसान और दूसरे इंसान के बीच जो मोहब्बत का समुद्र है वो ठाठे मारता रहता है। तो इंसान को इंसान से जोड़ने की कोशिश उस कथा साहित्य में दिखती है, जो नासरा जी के लेखन में हमें मिलती है। तो आज हमारे साथ हैं, हम बात करेंगे उनसे बहुत सारे प्रसंगों पर। तो नासरा जी से पहला सवाल मेरा यही है कि दो पृष्ठभूमियों को एकदम एक सा मिलाया है अपने कथा साहित्य में आपने, एक ईरान और फिर भारत, और आप कोई अंतर नहीं देख पाती हैं। आप कहती हैं कि सारा समाज एक ही है, एक तरह से देखें तो बस भाषाओं का अंतर है, पर उनकी भावनाएं और उनकी बीच धड़कने वाली मूल भावनाएं वो एक ही हैं। तो इसको लेकर आप कुछ हमें बताएं।
वो मैं अब जाकर समझी हूँ ज़्यादा गहराई से। जब मैंने लिखना शुरू किया था तो मैंने ईरान में लिखना शुरू किया, लेकिन तब पता नहीं था कि ईरान और हिंदुस्तान के आपसी रिश्ते कितने पुराने, और संस्कृत और फारसी का जो दो बहनों का रिश्ता है वो कितना पुराना है। तो जब मैंने ईरान देखी तो मुझे बहुत ताज्जुब हुआ कि सब कुछ तो वैसे। और जब वहाँ एक बेटी थी जिनके यहाँ जो ठहराए गए थे मेहमान आने की, तो वो इंचार्ज था, उनका बेटा बहुत शरीफ था, तो बड़ी देर से मना कर रही थी, वो मान नहीं रहा था, तो उन्होंने अपनी चप्पल उठाई और खींच के मारा। तो मैं देखती ये सीन तो मैं घर में देखती हूँ हिंदुस्तान में, और एक लोग फ्रॉक पहने हैं, बाल बहुत अच्छी तरह से बने हुए हैं, और हरकत बिल्कुल घरेलू टाइप से, और शायद एशिया की धर्मा यही करती है, करती होगी, बदल गया होगा माता क्लास। तो यहाँ से मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग ईरान से शुरू हुई, और मुझे लगता है कि हाँ एशियन संवेदना के स्तर पर, सोच के स्तर पर बहुत अलग नहीं है। हमारी बात है भाषा, भौगोलिक स्थिति, खान पान, ये तो हमको अलग अलग है, इसमें कुछ नहीं। और आपको ताज्जुब होगा, कुछ दिन पहले मनोजी जान के बहुत ही ताज्जुब हुआ कि जो संस्कृत की पांडुलिपियां वो किसी तरह से हमारे हाथों से चली, यानी कि गुमनाम हो गई, तबाह हो गई, बर्बाद हो गई। उनके ट्रांसलेशन जाके हमको फारसी भाषा,
ये कितनी पुरानी बात है?
काफी पुरानी बात है, कई शताब्दियों पहले की बात है, हमारे आर्किटेक्ट में, हमारे जिसे कहते हैं आर्ट में, कल्चर में, मुहावरों में, इंडो यूरेनियन जो भाषा का इतिहास है, उसमें हम लोग बहुत करीब हैं उसके साथ। लेकिन जानते हैं ये सब जाने बिना इत्तेफाक है कि मेरी जिंदगी में ईरान आया। ईरान को मैंने कभी मानचित्र को तलाश करने की कोशिश की, ये कहाँ है, क्या है। लेकिन होता है कि जिंदगी में चाहते आप कुछ और हैं और जिंदगी आपको ले नहीं और जाती है। तो मैं कहूँगी कि मेरे लेखन का दरवाजा ईरान जाने के साथ खुलता है। क्योंकि मैं 3 साल इंग्लैंड में रह चुकी थी और एक ही कहानी मैंने ऐसे कर रही थी और कोई नौकरी तो सवाल ही नहीं।
तो मतलब जो वहाँ के आपने पात्र लिए ईरान के, और फिर बाद में जब भारत और पाकिस्तान की पृष्ठभूमि पे भी आपकी कहानियां और कथा साहित्य है, तो आप अलगा नहीं पाएंगे। आप कह रहे हैं कि ये पूरा जो एशियन हमारा समाज है वो कहीं कहीं एक सही नजर है, मतलब उसकी समस्याएं एक हैं, उनका जीवन एक है, भाषा और खान पान या सांस्कृतिक अंतर हो सकता है, लेकिन जब आप उसको साहित्यिक पैमाने पर लाते हैं तो बहुत सारा हमें एक समानता दिखती है उसमें।
कैसे हम गरीबी से टकराते हैं, कैसे हमारे यहाँ जगह है, कैसे हम औरतों को लड़ते हैं।
अच्छा, ये आप एक इसको लेकर आप क्या सोचती हैं कि जो आपके यहाँ जैसे हिंदू परिवेश की कहानियां नहीं है, लेकिन जब जो हिंदू राइटर्स हैं हिंदी के, जो वो जब मुस्लिम परिवेश को लेकर कुछ लिखते हैं तो वो काफी उसको मतलब उतनी प्रशंसा की नजर से देखा जाता है कि जैसे कोई बहुत बड़ा काम किया उन्होंने। लेकिन जो जैसे काला जल है सैनी का, या मंजूर एहसान के हैं, या बिस्मिल्लाह साहब का काम है, आपका काम है, तो ये तो ज्यादा नजदीकी माना जाना चाहिए ना, ऑथेंटिक। लेकिन जब उसको उतनी तवज्जो कम मिलती है उसकी तुलना में, जैसे कोई अगर हिंदू राइटर्स मुस्लिम परिवेश के बारे में लिखता है, तो इसको कभी इस पर आपने कैसे सोचा है, किसको देखा है आपने?
लेकिन हाँ, एक चीज पे एतराज होता था कि मैं उर्दू के लफ्ज़ खासकर मुझसे कहा जाता था, उर्दू के शब्द यहाँ पे बहुत यूज़ करते हैं। लेकिन मैं देखती थी कि कमजोर को उठा देती, उस भारतीय जी को देखती, नावर सिंह साहब को देखती, उनका जो नाम की फारसी है, तो सभी लोगों में उर्दू है, तो इस खास तौर से क्यों इतनी चार जो मुस्लिम राइटर हैं उनके ऊपर लेकिन अंदर बिस्मिल्लाह कहना, अगर बिस्मिल्लाह कहना है क्योंकि मेरा चूंकि
मुस्लिम समाज की मैं बात कर रहा था।
समाज को मैं कहूँगी कि ऐसा नहीं था। लेकिन हाँ, एक बात मुझे महसूस होती है, कोई भी खासकर नॉन मुस्लिम जब लिखते हैं और उनकी पकड़ कुछ चीजों पे मजबूत नहीं होती है और उसको दूसरे लोग समझते हैं कि इसको बोलना चाहिए और ये बहुत गलत चीजें हैं, उस वक्त एक तरह का आप इसे बिहार कह सकते हैं इस मतलब विषय से, या कुछ और कह सकते हैं, बहुत लोग लपक के तारीफ करते हैं बिना ये समझे हुए कि इसमें
इस तरफ इशारा कर रहा था मैं जी।
सही रहना है और आपने बहुत ही गहरी बात की है। इस बात को ये चूंकि आपके टाइम का सवाल है ना, इसलिए आप ये सवाल कर सकते हैं।
आप कह रहे हैं कि पहले ऐसा नहीं था उस तरह।
पहले ऐसा नहीं था, अभी बहुत सारी चीजें आई हैं जो लोगों ने के साथ जब आपकी पकड़ नहीं होती है तो अरमान को रखते प्राप्त, और जहाँ पे आपकी पकड़ है उसको
तो मतलब इसी से निकलता हुआ एक सवाल ये भी है कि क्या मतलब ये मतलब बहुत रूढ़ सवाल भी है, लेकिन आपकी जुबान से कुछ अलग ही बात पैदा होगी। तो अच्छा, ठीक, शुक्रिया। तो ये कह रही हैं, सवाल ये है कि ये मतलब रूढ़ सवाल है कि हिंदी में जो मुस्लिम राइटर्स होते हैं, जो हिंदी में लेखन करना स्वीकार करते हैं, चुनते हैं, तो वो क्या उपेक्षा उनकी होती है या उनको कम स्वीकारा जाता है? जो हिंदी में लिखने वाले हिंदू राइटर्स हैं, मैं मतलब काफ़ी मजहबी ढंग से बात कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन इस पैमाने पर आजकल सोचने की थोड़ा ज़रूरत है। मतलब जैसे कि उनको सम्मानित कम किया जाता है, पुरस्कार कम मिलते हैं, पाठकों का प्यार तो मिलता है और उनके लेखन को भी स्वीकारा जाता है, लेकिन एक जो सोशल हमारा स्ट्रक्चर है जिसमें अवार्ड हैं या मंच हैं या स्पेसेस हैं, वो थोड़ा-सा वहाँ पर मुस्लिम राइटर्स को थोड़ा-सा पीछे रखा जाता है। ये पहले था कि अभी भी है, इसको लेकर आप कुछ जानना चाहता था?
और मुसलमानों के अंदर वालों में नजर से देखिए तो आपकी बात सच साबित हो सकती है, लेकिन अगर कोई हिंदी के राइटर की नजर से देखिए तो ये बात बिल्कुल सही नहीं है। उसकी वजह ये है कि 4-5 राइटर अगर सिर्फ मुसलमान हैं और समझ लें कि 200 राइटर हिंदू हैं और उनमें से बेहतरीन लिखने वालों को नहीं मिला, तो फिर जस्टिस का जो तराजू है कैसे रहना सकता? तो मैं इस पे यकीन नहीं।
आप स्वयं भी ऐसा मानती हैं?
हाँ, लेकिन ये कहा जाता है तो कहने को तो बहुत चीज है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं। बाद में तो अब दूसरे नाम मिलते ही हैं, सारी कैटेगरी की बात आगे अटक जाती है।
राय मासूम रजा को वो नहीं मिला सम्मान जिसके वो हकदार थे, लेकिन लोकप्रियता उनकी किसी भी हिंदी राइटर से कम नहीं।
लेकिन मेरी नजरों में इस तरह का तासुब जो है वो नहीं करना चाहिए। अभी तक हम काफी इस सिलसिले से बचे हुए हैं, लेकिन ठीक है, तासुब वाले लोग हर जगह होते हैं और हर जगह ही काम हो जाता है। विश्व मंदिर में मेरे पसंदीदा राइटर थे, मैंने बहुत कोशिश की कि हमारे वहाँ पे थी यूडी में, लेकिन मैं नहीं दे पा रहा, नहीं मिला उनको, एक भी नहीं मिला। तो आप इसको क्या कहें?
ठीक है, इस पर स्पष्टता आ गई आपकी बात से। मैं ये लेकिन आपने स्वयं कहा है साहित्य अकेडमी जब आपकी किताब को मिला तो आपने एक इशारा किया है इस तरफ कि वो आपके बेस्ट काम को नहीं दिया गया और काफ़ी विलंबित हुआ वो। इस तरफ भी आपने वो
मैंने कभी कहीं भी कोई शिकायत नहीं की, ना मैंने ये कहा कि मेरा जो कागजात है उससे बेहतर चीजें आ चुकी थी। मुझे तो खुद ताज्जुब था कि कागजात को सेलेक्ट करने वाले और मुझे इतनी ज्यादा हैरत हुई क्योंकि देखिए एक देश होती है इनाम पाने की ख्वाहिश, फिर धीरे धीरे वो दूर चली गया, वो खत्म हो गया।
आपकी इसी बात को शायद उस तरह से मतलब सुना गया होगा इस अर्थ में।
समझ नहीं पाती, जब नहीं मिल रहा था तो भी फुर्सत दिया जा रहा था, जब मिल गया तो भी फुर्सत दिया जाने लगा। तो लोग ऐसा सोचते हैं
इसी से भी एक सवाल और निकल रहा है कि आपको क्या लगता है, आपकी जो बात का काम है, बात के उपन्यास हैं या कहानी संग्रह हैं, इन पर बात शुरुआती काम की तुलना में कम हुई है? जो आपका बात का काम है, बात का जो कथा लेखन है, उस पर बात कम हुई है, पहले के काम पर ही बात अभी भी होती रहती है, नए काम पर बात कम होती है, इस तरफ थोड़ा-सा? नहीं, मतलब आपको नहीं लगता ऐसा?
इसमें कोई शक नहीं है कि वो नया तरह से हमने हिंदी को रिच किया और उस वक्त तो कोई नहीं सोच सकता था कि हम अपने तालाब में कूद जाएंगे, रिपोर्टाज लिखने लगेंगे, लोगों ने साथ में इंटरव्यू लेने लगेंगे। उस पहचान को लोग अभी तक नहीं जानते। कोई इंटरव्यू है ही नहीं ऐसा जिसमें ईरान की बात हो। आपने शुरू की ईरान की बात, तो वो पहचान तो मैं नहीं मिला। अब ईरान के ऊपर साथ में समुद्र आई, उसकी बहुत ही चर्चा हुई, कुछ उसको लेकर पॉलिटिक्स भी हुई, इनाम देके वापस ले दिया गया उससे। अब एक किताब मिलने में और आएगी कुछ रंग के ख्वाबों की, तो अगर उसकी चर्चा नहीं होती है तो आप में सच्चाई नहीं, अगर चर्चा हो जाती है तो मैं कहूँगी।
तो आपको क्या ऐसा लगता है कि जो हिंदी का पाठक समाज है, जो भी है शेष बचा हुआ, वो मतलब नई पृष्ठभूमियों के लिए, नई स्थानीयताओं के लिए कम तैयार है? या एक जो पैटर्न है कथा साहित्य का, जो मुहावरे हैं, या जिस यथार्थ का वो आदी है, अपने नज़दीकी यथार्थ का, उसके बारे में ही पढ़ना, जानना, उसी में डूबना चाहता है, या नई चीज़ों के लिए भी तैयार कम है?
तो दोनों चीजों में पत्रकारिता की विकास से दस्तक मिली। और इससे पहले मतलब 25 साल पहले तक मुझे कोई भी पत्रकार नहीं करता। मेरे जो साथी राइटर थे वो मुझे ऐसा नहीं करते, पॉलिटिकल एनालिसिस मैंने उससे लिखा थी। लेकिन मैं क्रेडिट दूंगी नई जनरेशन को जो उस वक्त थी 25 साल पहले, उसने मुझे सबसे पहले हाँ, और वो पत्रकार का सिलसिला चल पड़ा। मैंने कभी आग्रह नहीं किया कि मुझे पत्रकार के लिए या कुछ भी, क्योंकि अगर मैं लेखक हूँ तो मैं कोई भी विधा उठा के उसमें काम कर सकती हूँ। एक तो ये बात है, और दूसरी ये बात है कि जो आप कह रहे हैं बात की चीजों की चर्चा नहीं होती है, तो एक सवाल मैं आपसे करना चाहूंगी क्योंकि वो मेरा सवाल है। ये बात में मुझे कई किताबों में नाम नहीं मिला, जब मैं चर्चा में थी तो नाम नहीं मिला, जब चर्चा में नहीं होगी तो नाम नहीं मिला।
इनाम का
साहित्य अकेडमी तो मैंने 15 साल से उसकी नहीं चली थी, लेकिन वो मिला मुझे प्रयास सम्मान।
यंग लोगों के लिए तो अवार्ड है नहीं ना इस तरह के बड़े, वो तो जब आप काफी सीनियर हो जाते हैं तभी मिलते हैं, शायद यही कारण रहा होगा इसका। हाँ मिले हैं वो अलका सरावगी की, कुछ लोग, कुछ नाम अपवाद हैं, लेकिन ज्यादातर मामलों में यही देखा गया है कि तो है, राजेंद्र यादव जी को नहीं मिला, मन्नू भंडारी को नहीं मिला, बहुत सारे नाम हैं। तो खैर इससे हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। तो एक सवाल है कि आप अपने लेखन में स्त्री मुक्ति और स्त्री आज़ादी की पक्षधर हैं और स्त्रीवाद के प्रश्न आपके यहाँ आते हैं, लेकिन स्वयं को आप अगर कोई स्त्री लेखक कहे तो वो थोड़ा सा आपको इससे इस खांचे में बनना पसंद नहीं करती है। और कृष्णा सोपती भी ऐसा ही मानती थी, हमारी बहुत सीनियर राइटर, वो भी इसके पक्ष में नहीं थी कि उनको कोई स्त्री लेखक कहे। या लेखिका कहे, तो आप भी इसी बात की पक्षधर रही हैं।
अगर आप थोड़ा सा कार्य को शुरू करोगे, तो जिस वक्त मैं और अपने मुझे रेडियो स्टेशन पे, टेलीविजन पे इंटरव्यू दे रही थी अपनी, उस वक्त एक दो लेडीज सिर्फ अंग्रेजी की जो लेडीज मुद्दे के ऊपर खड़ा है, तो शुरू से मेरा जो अंदाज था, तो मैंने क्या किया था कि मैं अपनी राइटिंग में औरत को कभी छूटने नहीं, अभी मासूमाना एक ख्वाहिश थी। उसके बाद जब हुआ कि जहाँ जहाँ मेरा नाम लिया जाता था, तो इससे वादी है, यहाँ तक कि BBC में मेरा इंट्रोडक्शन हुआ, या बाहर से जो 3 औरतें जुड़ी थी, पाकिस्तान से और हिंदुस्तान से, इसको वादी ये सारी चीजें थी। लेकिन एक वक्त ऐसा आया कि स्त्री को सेक्स का बना दिया, बहुत बात की मैंने आपको बताया।
ये हंस पत्रिका के
मैं किसी का नाम नहीं लेना चाहूंगी, मैं ये बताना चाहूंगी टाइम कैसे जॉब कर रहा था। तब तक मेरी चिड़िया की मम्मी आ गई, वो कहते थे कि देखो कभी और पिता के घर से आया औरत का एक बच्चा होता है। शायद आज भी जो कहती थी मैं रिश्तों में बराबरी चाहती हूँ, 3 नॉवेल इस सिलसिले से मैं और लिखना चाहती थी जो नहीं हो पाई इसके पास। लेकिन जो बात कही गई उसको बहुत सेक्स कहानी में आना बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि पेट जो है और सेक्स तो बहुत अजीब सी जरूरत है इंसान की। एक सोता है तो दूसरा जागता है, दूसरा सोता है तो पहला जागता है। लेकिन जिस भद्दे तरीके से स्त्री मुक्ति में उसको शामिल किया कुछ लेखिकाओं ने, वहां से मुझे लगा कि नहीं लाना, मैं इस तरह की सोच नहीं रख पाऊंगी। और दूसरी चीज सेक्स को हैंडल करना लिटरेचर में बहुत मुश्किल, या तो बहुत भद्दा हो जाता है या बहुत बारीक हो जाता है। इसलिए एक रिएक्शन के तौर पर मैंने उससे दूरी की, और दूरी करने के बाद मैंने कहा मैं स्त्री ये वक्ती एक्सप्रेशन था। लेकिन आज भी मैं उनको स्त्री के लिए बोलती हूँ, और मेरी 5वीं किताब प्रेस में है, तो स्त्री से मैं भाग करना चाहूँगी।
इसके बावजूद आपने जो मर्द किरदार हैं आपके कथा साहित्य में, वो काफी डिफरेंट नजर आते हैं। मतलब लगता है कि मतलब कोई मर्द लिख रहा है उनको, उतना उतर कर उनमें लिखा गया है। तो उसके लिए क्या तैयारी रही है आपकी?
मैंने वो घर देखे जहाँ लड़कों की ख्वाहिशात चलती जाती है, माँ बाप की ख्वाहिशों में आती है कि तुम ये करोगे, तुम ये नहीं करोगे, ना शादी करोगे, तो उनको भी मुक्ति नहीं। मुझे लगा ये 60% एक्सप्लॉइटेड बाय समाज और पेरेंट्स हैं, और 80% औरत। फिर औरत के लिए शोषण का वो कर देती, मर्द के लिए करते हैं, फिर औरत के साथ एक सामाजिक संरचना के साथ चलती है। एक वक्त ऐसा आया कि मुझे लगा कि अब लिटरेचर में कोई भी अच्छा मर्द सांस नहीं दे पाएगा, तो होना क्या चाहिए। तब मैंने ऐसे किरदार, खास तौर से मुख्य किरदार बनाया है, जो मैंने भी कहा है उसमें कोई न जानने आया है, डॉक्टर और अक्षय भट्ट ने आया, तो हम मर्दों को नहीं। और यहाँ तक एक बहुत ही खूबसूरत मेरी कहानी है, उसको लोगों ने खूबसूरत बनाया, पसंद करते दूसरा ताजमहल। वो इतना जो उसको मर्द का कैरेक्टर है, वो इतना पैथेटिक है कि उसको उसकी मर्जी की मजबूरा नहीं है, वो एडजस्ट करता है, आर्किटेक्ट है और आपको वो फ्री के बातें करता है। उसमें भी स्त्रीवादी लोगों ने, कुछ लोगों ने, मैं सबको उस कैरेक्टर को समझने की जगह उसके ऊपर डांचने लगा है, कितना बदतमीज, कितना वो, कितना धीमा। मैं हैरत ज़दा हूँ कि देख उससे आगे क्यों नहीं, मतलब वाद विवाद के आगे क्यों नहीं,
मतलब बारीक पाठ नहीं है अपने यहाँ।
और मैं शुरू से कह रही हूँ कि जिस तरह से औरत को ऊपर काम कर करके योजनाएं बना के परिवार का साथ दे के औरत को वहां जाकर खड़ा कर दिया है जहाँ उसका एडजस्टमेंट मुश्किल हो रहा हो मर्दों के साथ जो पिछड़ रहे हैं। मर्दों के शुरू से काम होना चाहिए और मर्दों के ऊपर औरतों के साथ बैठ के काम होना चाहिए। या तो औरत अगर बोलती है या हम तो बोलते हैं, मर्द को लगता है कि उनको उसकी जरूरत ही नहीं है, वो तो ऊपर वाले ने उनको पूरी तरीके से कामयाब इंसान बना के। और मैं यहाँ कहना चाहूंगी कि इतना से मनोरमा करते हैं, लेकिन उन्होंने एक दूसरे अंदाज से मेरे थॉट्स को कि शोषित मर्द कैसे, क्योंकि आप एक सोसाइटी चाहते हैं, वहाँ बैलेंस चाहते हैं, ऐसा थोड़ी ना है। क्योंकि शायद ने जैसे कहा ना कि स्वामी का और नौकर का रिश्ता नहीं चल सकता है। आप बराबर कीजिए। आज की औरत चाहती है कि वो एक दोस्त, एक साथी और एक विचार के स्तर पे उसका साथ देने वाला पाए। मर्दों की कमी थोड़ी ना है आज की औरत, तो नहीं और सकते और नहीं और सकते भाई। अगर किसी तरह लेकिन जब आप मैरिड लाइफ में दाखिल होते हैं तो उसकी डिमांड कुछ और होती है। और मेरी बातों को कभी कभी लोग नहीं समझ पाते हैं, लेकिन किसी ने उठ के ऐसा नहीं कभी कहा कि मुझे लगे कि वो एंटी मुझे समझ रहा है। सेक्स में मेरी कहानियां क्यों नहीं है, एक ही कहानी हुआ है और वो कहानी है मेरी संसार। क्योंकि जब लोगों ने एहसास किया कि शादी में एक भी बेडरूम सीन नहीं है और कृष्णा जी ने कहा था तो मैं बहुत सोच पड़ती थी। और कल तो मैंने हैदर ने भी कहा कि पता उतना जरूर जीने देती अपनी किताब के लिए लोग ना आशा अजीब बात लोग करते हैं, उसे कहते हैं आपके सेक्स नहीं। तो मैं जानना चाहती हूँ आखिर लेखक से पाठक चाहते क्या, मेरी भी परेशानी थी। फिर मैंने कहा कि मैं जरूर समझता हूँ। और जो कृष्णा जी की औरत चिन्मन के इधर झुझक जाती है और अंदर नहीं जाती है, अगर वो अंदर चली जाती तो क्या। इसमें मैंने महीनों सोचा और उसके बाद फिर ये कहानी
आपके जो मेल कैरेक्टर्स रहे हैं इस पर जो मतलब मर्दों की क्या क्या प्रतिक्रिया रही हैं, मतलब ऐसे कुछ लेटर्स आपको मिले या कोई बातचीतों में उन्होंने बताया आपको संवाद में कि ये उन्होंने ऐसा नहीं पढ़ा पहले कभी, किसी स्त्री ने नहीं लिखा उनके बारे में इस तरह से?
बहुतों ने पहली रात को शादी को अपनी बेटी को प्रेजेंट किया,
गलत बात है।
लेकिन मेरे इधर जो कैरेक्टर है, देखिए हम जुड़ा हो गए हैं औरत की वीरता से सुनते हैं, लेकिन वो ये नहीं समझते हैं कि वो औरत जो सही तरीके से मर्द का पोषण नहीं कर रही है, बल्कि मर्द को तैयार नहीं किया पाए, जो अपनी बीवी के साथ मिसबिहेव कर रही है, तो वहां तो मैं क्रिटिसाइज करूंगी। और क्योंकि मुझे याद है कि ईरान में एक धर्म है तो वो आप जो है हिंदुस्तानी है और आर्मी से कुछ कनेक्शन होता है। और मेरा समझ पूरा फीफा जो तेरे का पता था उसमें इतना मैं आतंकित हो गई और मैंने कहा ये क्या कर रहे हैं और लड़के से वो बंगाली कपल था और उसने इतना उसने कहा लड़के से मैं लड़के से शुरुआत तो आपने वहीं से बता दिया ये कैसे ये बातें बहुत सारी औरतें होते हैं इसके इन बातों लेकिन मुझे लगता है इन बातों पे हमें काम करना है और बेहतर जिंदगी औरत को मिले इसके बातों।
तो आप जब पहले लिख रही थी तो जो स्त्री पुरुष संबंधों की राजनीति थी वो मतलब अब इतना समय आपको लिखते हुए हो गया तो आज काफ़ी उसमें बदलाव आए हैं। आप भी देखती होंगी तमाम तकनीक ने उसको प्रभावित किया है, तमाम दुनिया में जो बदलाव आए हैं, ग्लोबलाइजेशन, भूमंडलीकरण, बाजार। तो आप जब आज लिखती हैं तो आप पुराना भी आपको अनुभव है, तो आपको क्या लगता है संबंधों की जो राजनीति है स्त्री पुरुष संबंधों की ये कितना बदली है, कितना निस्तनाबूद हुई है या नए सिरे से इसके में कोई व्याख्या की जरूरत है इसको, इसके बारे में आप क्या ख्याल रखती हैं?
हिंदुस्तान इतना बड़ा है और इतनी बड़ी बातें हैं उसकी ये कहना कि जो चीज दिल्ली की जहाँ मैं रह रही हूँ वहाँ मुझे नजर आ रही है 25% प्रॉब्लम है वही सच्चाई मुझे अपने गाँव में सबक आ रही है बिल्कुल नहीं। वो एक तरह के डायलॉग बोल सकती हैं सारी चीजें लेकिन आप तौल नहीं सकते अपने समाज को ठीक करने का। कभी इस तरह से आई है कि औरतें ज्यादा मुद्दा और इस मामले में बहुत कामयाब है कि बहुत अच्छी तरह संभाल रही है, इसमें भी कामयाब नहीं है कि कम नहीं है। लेकिन जहाँ कहीं ये चीज अति हो जाती है वहां पे चीज है क्योंकि औरत मर्द से ज्यादा इस मामले में जिम्मेदार है क्योंकि वो एक इंसान को जन्म बात खत्म नहीं होती। जब वो जन्म देती है तो वैश्विक बच्चा उसको बनाना है या इंसान बच्चा बनाना है। और ये सब कहना है कि वो आप क्यों नहीं करता और ये सब छोटी छोटी बातें हैं जो आप ऐसी शक्तियों कर सकते हैं। और ये भी मैं कहना चाहूंगी कि कुछ बातें क्या ज्यादातर बात कुछ इस तरह की इरिटेटिंग या बिहेवियर उनका होता है कि कोई भी संवेदनशील व्यक्ति इनसे उभर सकता है। तो फिर हमारे यहाँ औरत कैसे देखती है उसको तलाक तो नहीं करना पड़ता, कभी कभी 2 तलाक में होता है, कभी मैंने तो इरान में 4 और 5 शादियां तलाक
और अपने यहाँ मतलब पूरे भारतीय समाज की बात करें तो
और औरतों ने बहुत संजीदगी से और बहुत ही जिसे कहते हैं गरिमा से अपने को संभालना है। और देखिए कहाँ पे नहीं है। मैं आपको 75 से लेकर 85 तक की बात बताती हूँ जिस वक्त मैं मिनिस्ट्री में जाती थी या दूसरे दफ्तरों और यहाँ तक की रेडियो स्टेशन और टेलीविजन लेकिन नीचे मेरी भीड़ खड़ी हो जाती थी आंकड़ा भी चलती थी क्योंकि किसी न किसी केबिन में कोई स्मार्ट सी महिला रहती काफी सारे रिश्ते काम कर रही होती हैं। तो औरतों ने बहुत बड़ा किया लेकिन जहाँ पे उनकी जिंदगी घरेलू जिंदगी आती है उसकी हिंसा कम वहाँ बताने
थोड़ा सा और आगे बढ़ते हैं, मतलब पीछे चलते हैं। इलाहाबाद में आपका जन्म हुआ तो आज उसका नाम प्रयागराज हो गया है। तो जब आप प्रयागराज शब्द कहीं लिखा देखती हैं या पढ़ती हैं या सुनती हैं तो क्या आता है आपके जहन में?
क्योंकि किसी का भी नाम बदलना थोड़ा सा अजीब सा लगता है। मुझे सबसे बड़ी परेशानी ये रहती है कि जो मेरे पुराने सनद है, ऐतिहासिक सनद है, लिटरेचर है, कहाँ आप इलाहाबाद को हटा के प्रयागराज अब मेरा डेट ऑफ बर्थ जो है उसके आगे लगा ही हुआ है रजिस्ट्रेशन। तो अब प्रयागराज रजिस्ट्रेशन वाले को प्रयागराज और हम लोग की खामोशी की बात का एहसास दिलाती है कि हम सरकार के लिए बहुत अहम नागरिक नहीं। हमें देखिए सरकार बनने चाहिए, सरकार बहुत सारे कदम ऐसे उठाती है जो बहुत अच्छे हैं, जो नागवार गुजरते हैं उनके लिए हमें संवाद करना चाहिए और जरूरत से ज्यादा उसके लिए फोकस करना चाहिए, क्योंकि किसी एक रिजीम से किसी एक धर्म से नफरत करके इतना बड़ा कंट्री कैसे। तो मैं सोचती हूँ कि हमारे में भी कमी है कि ऐसा नागरिक हम अपनी जोरदार समझा पाते हैं और ना कर पाते हैं। नाम जब प्रयागराज का पता लगा था तो कॉफी हाउस वगैरह की बहुत सारे वीडियो है और उसमें वहाँ भी इलाहाबादी अंदाज से अभी बोलते हुए बोल रहे हैं इसकी वो है बदल के तो देखते हैं अब साफ लगा के लोग कुछ अब कुछ नहीं हुआ और प्रयागराज दिखाया जाता है
तो सही बात है, जब जब हम प्रयागराज सुनेंगे वो कह रहे हैं कि जब आप प्रयागराज सुनेंगे तो इलाहाबाद ही याद आएगा आपको। तो इस बिंदु पर ही हम नासरा जी से इस बातचीत को समाप्त कर रहे हैं और बहुत बहुत आभार नासरा जी इतनी महत्वपूर्ण बात तो करने के लिए, और ना समझी हुई हो तो माफ कीजिएगा।
हिंदी में ही बोलने का मन कर रहा है कि ये है हिंदी साहित्य की शेरनी और हिंदी जगत में एक सच्ची निडर आवाज। इनको सुनकर बहुत अच्छा लगा। और नाउ आई विल रिक्वेस्ट प्राची नायक, co-director KLF, to please felicitate Avinash Mishra ji. Avinash ji, would you please stay here only? Yes. All right. So now for our third panel, we will have a book launch for a splendid book on parenting called Baby Steps to Big Dreams by Dr. Manjula Pooja Shroff. The book contains a diverse range of topics that apply to different age groups. It was earlier launched in August 2023 at Mauritius in the presence of Honorable President of the Republic of Mauritius, His Excellency Mr. Prithviraj Singh Rupan, GCSK. Within a short period of 2 months, the book had already been declared as the #1 bestseller by Amazon under the category of family and relationships. The book further has had the privilege of being the only book